In a Car with IPR is a new series by the Institute for Public Relations where we talk to industry leaders to find out what makes them tick, discuss research, and ask them to look into their crystal ball to see what's in store for us. All right, thank you for joining us for our next episode of In a Car with IPR. We're here in the Crescent City of New Orleans with Catherine Hernandez-Blades. She's the SVP and Chief ESG and Communications Officer at Aflac in Columbus, Georgia. But we're here in her hometown of New Orleans. We're really excited to be here. So thank you, Catherine, for being here.
Thank you for being here too.
So are you ready for an exciting day?
It's going to be incredible.
I know, I'm so excited.
I can't wait to show you my city.
Yay! So a couple of years ago, you took over marketing and brand under your already existing role of communication. I feel like in the industry, we're always talking about like the integration of both of these. So what was your experience with that like, and any sort of learnings that you took away from that?
Oh, lots of learnings, always. But actually, in my last position at Flextronics, I came in as the CMO, and then I took over communications. And so it was a little bit vice versa here, but I kind of like to joke I'm the Mikey of Aflac. If somebody doesn't want a project, I get it. So I was brought in to reconstitute the corporate communications function, and that went pretty well. So then they asked me, oh, we need marketing to have a shot in the arm. So I did that next for about 14 months, and we've spun that back in the U.S. business. And now I'm in the role of Chief ESG and Communications Officer because now I have the opportunity to build out an entire ESG function, which I'm super jazzed about.
So for those who may not be as familiar with ESG, what is that? And what do you do in the role with the environmental, social, and governance?
Governance. Well, it's really early stages for us. We've got a great narrative. We just need to pull it together. Our governance process is very strong. We've got a great environmental program that we don't talk about, and we have a great CSR program, which we just started talking about 4 years ago and has just blossomed into something totally phenomenal. But it's about, for us, determining the difference between what is key versus what is material, and making sure those disclosures are done in such a way that we're in alignment with SEC policies, obviously, and regulatory compliance. But we also want to create compelling narratives around the E and the S in such a way that Sustainalytics, MSCI, all of their AI can pick it up. So it's a very exciting time.
Okay, so we're here with John Michael, who's 6. And one of the things you talked about, Catherine, was your My Special Aflac Duck. Mm-hmm. So why don't you tell us what that is and sort of what the function of it is, and then we'll ask John Michael to demonstrate.
Well, John Michael is very special to us at Aflac because he received one of the very first ducks here at Children's Hospital in New Orleans. And so he knows all about it. He's going to demonstrate it for us. But basically, it's a social robot for children who've been diagnosed with cancer, and it allows them to articulate their feelings, particularly at a young age when they're not completely verbal. It helps caregivers to understand what they're going through. I mean, think about it, Tina. You've been in the hospital. You can't get any rest there. Every 15 minutes, somebody's coming in and asking you how you're feeling. Well, now they can come into John Michael's room and they can ask him how his duck is feeling. And the duck will act out the emotions for him. And it also has some very special features, including a port, just like John Michael might have. And are you ready, my friend? You want to show him how it works?
Just a minute, please.
He's doing deep breathing exercises with you. Do you have deep breathing exercises before your treatment sometimes?
No.
No? But you could if you wanted to because of your duck, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. You know what my favorite emoji is?
Silly.
Silly's my favorite.
That's my favorite too.
Now you're calm and you're going to do...
So, Catherine, this took a lot of development with Sproutel, the
Yes.
company, right? You had prototypes and you did tons of research to find out what the
18
iterations would
months.
be. Yeah.
18 months of research with 100 families and medical staff at the Aflac Cancer Center in Atlanta, Georgia, and it was worth every second. We learned so much because it's a very difficult concept to explain, so we had a real idea of what we thought it was going to look like, what we thought it would do. But guys like John Michael changed all of that for us, and we really catered to their wants and needs. We didn't even have the emoji feeling cards when we started the design. That all came from the children, because even if you're not verbal, you can speak emoji.
Right. That's fantastic. And it's just a great concept. And Aflac's goal is to get this to all kids with pediatric cancer.
Yeah.
Correct.
In the U.S., there are between 13,500 and 16,000 children newly diagnosed with cancer every year. And so our goal is to put this in the hands of children free of charge. He's testing his microphone.
Okay, so Catherine, we just filmed in this Jackson Square, and now we're in front of the famous St. Louis Cathedral.
Indeed.
And it's very New Orleans. I think when you see a lot of the postcards, you have like St. Louis Cathedral, and it's right across the street from Café du Monde. So IPR, we recently published the first phase of a study in February looking at women in leadership and public relations, where we did a series of focus groups. We did 10 focus groups with a total of 60 people, senior leaders, mid-level leaders, both men and women. And we're finishing the survey now to hopefully publish very soon. But what we looked at was sort of mentorship, factors of organizations that promote advancement, opportunities in the workplace, and just sort of looking at the big picture of where we are. Because as an industry, we're still, the leadership numbers aren't there in terms of DE&I as it should be.
Well, I think we need to evolve beyond DE&I. It's really about DE&I, and with the emphasis on equity in opportunity, in pay. The easiest thing that corporate America can do is get to parity in gender pay. We are at parity in gender pay. It's very important, and I think unless you compensate for the same work equally, and unless you have inclusion, because frankly, you're just going to keep hiring people, diverse candidates, and they're just going to continue to leave.
Yeah, the revolving door.
Right. But somebody's got to provide the opportunity to look at everything equitably.
What do you say we go and find some shade and ask you some more questions?
That sounds great, and maybe we can throw in some sharp-rolled oysters.
You were talking my language.
Let's go.
Okay, lunchtime.
Indeed.
All right, so we're here at Drago's, which is famous for the charbroiled oysters.
Indeed.
Love oysters. So growing up in New Orleans must have been really special. I'm from the South too. I just feel like it's a very different experience than anywhere else to grow up. So what was that like, and what sort of your favorite memories about growing up here in New Orleans?
Oh, they're all amazing. But early in my working career, I was appointed by the governor to be the executive director of the Seafood Promotion and Marketing Board. And through that experience, I got to work with wonderful people like Tommy Satanovich, who owns Drago's.
Oh, cool.
Yes, and this has always been one of my favorites, and it's just great to share it here with you.
I'm so ready to dig into some oysters. I'm with you.
I'm ready. Here you go.
Okay, so now we're here at Café du Monde in City Park, famous for their powdered sugar covered beignets. I don't think you can go to Café du Monde without leaving covered in powdered sugar.
Oh, that's the best part. It's the entire point.
So let's talk a little bit about your career. And, do you have like a highlight of your career that you can pull out? Yeah.
There are so many, but I will share with you the My Special Aflac Duck project that we got to spend time with John Michael today and everything else. That's got to be a highlight. That is absolutely the best.
And yeah, I've seen it all over the media too. It's also been a great, experience for you and for the kids. So that's really neat. Okay, so last research study I'm going to ask you about is our recently published disinformation study. And
yes,
so
we sponsored that.
You did. You were one of our great sponsors, one of the two. And we really appreciate you doing that because that helps us be able to do the research. And it's sort of one of the first times we've gone outside the industry to do, and I mean, it was still, of course, applicable to the industry, and we looked at the industry itself, but we also surveyed the general population to find out their perspective toward disinformation, which we defined as deliberately misleading information. And part of our findings were when we asked people about the sources that they trusted, like university professors, journalists were about at the 50% of respondents that they had some trust in these sources. But then when we get down to the CEOs, companies, PR practitioners, only about 1 in 4 respondents said they had some trust. And I just want to get your perspective. Is this something that we need to be concerned about as a profession? Is one, disinformation and how people, whether they trust information, whether they believe information from others, and then how do we deal with this as a profession?
Well, it's a very poignant point. It's why we need organizations like Institute for Public Relations to be able to do the work so that the data can guide us through what we need to do. It is alarming because we know that companies with great reputations, if something does happen that is somewhat unfortunate, they get a lot of goodwill from their communities. If something bad happens and if they correct it quickly and if they're transparent and own up to it, if people lose trust in those types of institutions, then it's really bad for business because you don't get to bank the goodwill for when hopefully you don't need it, but when something does happen.
Yeah, and I think it's tough for us because as we're trying to get information out there with both internal and external stakeholders that, trust is so critical to everything that we do. So we're here in front of the Superdome, the famous Superdome. So I guess it was a couple years ago, I saw you present at a PR Week event and you talked about measurement and evaluation. And I remember the takeaway was, I feel like you have it, and we've talked in other in-car IPRs, like why can't we figure out the measurement? But I feel like Aflac has a pretty solid measurement and evaluation strategy, and especially not measuring just one thing, but having just a very holistic measurement function. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, I'll tell you about on the communication side. We actually use the Reputation Institute model, and there are 7 dimensions of reputation, and behind those 7 dimensions are 23 attributes. And the model itself is weighted by industry. So we know, based on all of their data, that if we can move our pulse score by a statistically significant amount, propensity to buy goes up, propensity to recommend goes up, and all sorts of other wonderful things happen. And we've managed to take our own data and interject it, and we can actually calculate through a highly proprietary system return on reputation. And we looked at our weighted model in the insurance industry, and basically the 3 areas where we could get the most lift that was most authentic to us were around workplace, citizenship, and governance. And so that's what we've been focusing on for the last 4 years, and it's worked extraordinarily well. And every time I go to the board, every quarter, I actually take our pulse score in a graph form and I overlay social media sentiment, editorial media sentiment, employee engagement survey results, the sales numbers accounting for the anomaly during open enrollment, and the stock price. And while I can't isolate the metric enough to prove causation, I can definitely proved correlation. I mean, you would have to have been one of the referees here the night of NFC Championship game to not see correlation on my chart.
So this part is the fun part, and it's like a lightning round to get to know you. And so I took this from James Lipton inside the Actors Studio, which I'm sure, did you ever watch that show?
Of course.
Yes.
It's a great show.
Okay. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, cool. All right, so what is your favorite word?
Intriguing.
Intriguing, I love it. It has a nice flow to it, and should you say that? Like, that's intriguing.
Yes.
So I love it.
Yes.
What's your least favorite word?
Stupid.
Oh, you don't like that word?
I don't
even want to say it.
That's an ugly word.
Yes. Yeah, I don't let my kids say that word.
That's
or
good.
Shut up. I feel like shut up's a terrible thing too. So what sort of shows do you like to watch?
Well, I like The Crown and Downton Abbey and things like that.
Yeah, and they have there's a new movie coming out, right?
I can't wait.
No, I've never watched any of those shows.
Oh, I love the costuming and the period pieces.
Yes, I do like some of the movies, but yeah, I heard like Crown's amazing and Downton Abbey. I just haven't got into it. I would love. I need to check it out. That's my assignment.
That's your assignment.
Okay, what about your favorite book or author or?
Yes, well, any book in the Dave Robichaux series by James Lee Burke.
Oh, nice.
I actually named my dog Roby, which is short for Robichaux, because I just love the character and I love James Lee Burke's writing. It's like musical to your ears.
Have you read them all?
Yes.
Okay, favorite song, favorite music.
Jazz.
Oh, you love jazz?
I love
Which
jazz.
is perfect. So, because New Orleans is known for
Jazz indeed.
yes.
So
And-
Utah, give us the name of the basketball team back, please.
Oh yeah, right. I mean, I love Jazz Fest. I mean, New
Isn't
Orleans
it
is so known
great?
for Jazz Fest for its amazing performances, and it's a great place to be. And it's April. Is that when it is? Like April-ish.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
2
great.
weekends. Yeah.
Nice.
And what's really neat is if you're in the city in the week between, you can fall into any restaurant and somebody will come up and jam if there's live music. But it's really super famous that you might not get to see otherwise.
Yeah,
it's very special.
Yeah, it's one of the great things I love about New Orleans. It's just that music everywhere, street corners, all over the city. So it's awesome. If heaven exists, what would you want God to say when you enter the pearly gates?
Bienvenue, mon ami.
Ah, welcome,
My friend.
my friend. Oh, I love it. It's so New Orleans. Well, this has been such a treat today to be with you in New Orleans, your hometown.
Thank you.
And it's probably one of my favorite cities. Thank you so much for showing us around. This is fantastic.
Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did.
It was great. It ranks up there as one of the best experiences. So it's been fantastic.
Fantastic.
So if you've enjoyed this episode of In a Car with IPR, please like the episode, and then you can follow us on social media or follow our YouTube page so you can check out more videos and stay in touch with what we're doing.
Thank you for watching this episode of In a Car with IPR. Want to make a tax-deductible contribution to support this series and fund research in the profession? Please visit us at instituteforpr.org/contribute.